Hi, I'm here for the British Colonies tour. Fantastic. It's actually tomorrow though, but what? Girl, drop the accent. It's not that bad. Yeah, you need a dialect coach before trying that again. Jeez. Okay. Would you like an overview? Sure, yeah, that'd be great. Great. Okay, yeah. So the 13 colonies were divided into three regions: the New England region, the Middle region, and the Southern region. Let's start with the New England region. So New England was composed of Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Maine was part of Massachusetts at the time. The North had to put up with cold winters, in theory hurting the ability to farm. However, in this region it was very unlikely since the land was mountainy and had lots of hills, although it was flat along the coast. Anyways, so the farms they did have were very small, but the cold winters did help reduce the spread of the disease, so that's a win. Not being able to farm affected the economy, therefore counting on other businesses to make money like the fur industry, the fishing industry, the trading industry, and specifically the shipbuilding industry. Luckily for the North, timber was abundant in this region. Thank you, large forests. Timber is not only good for ships, but for furniture as well, making a significant amount of jobs available like loggers, carpenters, and of course, shipbuilders. Boston became a huge trading port, taking a big part in the triangular trade amongst Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean. Now, New England was a bit stricter when it came to religion, since the church was essential to New England life. The North was dominated mainly by Puritans and set strict Puritan rules and barely tolerated other faiths, teaching strict discipline and religious devotion to children, integrating and blending scripture into regular learning. Women stayed in the kitchen, taking on traditional household roles. You good so far? It's just, since there were hardly any farms, does that mean that people were closer together? Yes, actually. Close proximity meant weekly town meetings and get-togethers where they discussed politics and how their local communities were to be governed. Here we see early stages of democracy and self-governance. Gotcha. Okay, moving to the Middle Colony, which was, as we can see here, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. Scream diversity. So, like, diversity. Jazz hands. Yeah, that sounded way better in my head. Anywho, it was home to many, like the Germans, Irish, French, Scottish, Dutch, and obviously English individuals. Middle colonies were tolerant to most religions, so consequently, Quakers, Jews, Catholics, and Lutherans coexisted no problemo. The climate was mild and the soil was richer, making it better for farming than its neighboring region above. These colonies produced the most grain, hence the breadbaskets of colonial America. Okay, so did this mean that the economy flowed better? Yeah, since the economy was also diverse, professions ranged from blacksmiths to cobblers. With the amount of factories up and running, the production of textiles, paper, and iron increased. Manufacturing was big in the middle regions and traded lots of goods within the Atlantic trade, exporting and importing from New York and Pennsylvania, which had some of the biggest cities of America at the time. Children learned the ins and outs of trading and often went on to education later. The towns were also filled with functioning shops where women would run the stores, along with tending to farmland whenever needed. Slavery was common in the middle region, but not as prominent as it was down south. The South? Yep, the South was made up of Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. Why was slavery so common in the South? Well, due to large plantations and big farms, the demand for workers to tend the land was high, making slavery the primary economic backbone. Life revolving around working fields meant that the South wasn't really involved in trade. Instead, they depended more on cash crops, which are cultivated and sold within the plantations, like tobacco, cotton, rice, indigo, and sugarcane. Fun fact, do you remember Jamestown? Yeah, the first ever English colony in Virginia. Tobacco was actually the first cash crop grown there, and it was very successful. Sadly, as mentioned before, this did bring a substantial amount of slaves, slowly replacing indentured servants because it was a pain to retrain them every so often. Wait, what are indentured servants? Usually lower class individuals from England who left agreeing to work for a certain amount of time, say 4 to 7 years, in exchange for going to America. The neat thing was that at the end of their service, they could keep their land, providing food and shelter. But the slaves were left to work in dangerous conditions, as the heat down south was no joke. And given that it was rarely cold, diseases went through folk like hot knives going through butter. How's that for an accent? You gotta stop. Additionally, land being spread out caused communities to be pretty separated as well, limiting social interaction, bringing tension amongst many Native American tribes already residing in the colonies previous to Britain's settlement. Lastly, rich families would hire private tutors for their kids, and the poor had little access to education. Wealthy families prepared their sons to be slave and plantation owners, while the penniless commenced working at a young age. A woman had more traditional roles, preparing their daughters for marriage and household chores. Religion was a mix of both northern regions, following the Church of England and tolerating other religions. Okay, so let me get this straight. New England colonies were land of faith and self-governance. The middle was everything diverse, and the south is working the fields plus wealth and status. Sick. This tour is going to be great for my school project. And with the golden ticket to collect everything firsthand. Huh? Nothing. You'll see tomorrow. Okay, thanks. 8 a.m. Don't be late. You ready? What? We're going in Doc Brown's DeLorean. Back to the future? Yes, silly. Time travel's real at the Museum of AMH 2010. Now, hold on. 2010. Ah!